What if the biggest business success didn't come from following the rules, but from breaking them? In the mid-1990s, a graphic design teacher decided to create a simple website. At first, it wasn't meant to become a huge company. The goal was simple. She wanted a place where she could experiment with new digital design tools like Photoshop and Illustrator, and also display her students' work so others could see it. That small project slowly started to grow. Over time, she realized the website could be more than just a personal playground. By 2002, she moved all of her teaching online. What began as a simple experiment eventually turned into a massive learning platform. Years later, the company was sold for $1.5 billion and became what people now know as LinkedIn Learning. Stories like this reveal something interesting about entrepreneurs. Many of them think very differently from traditional businesses. Instead of following the usual best practices taught in business schools, they use a different set of mindsets. The first mindset is simple: yes, we can. Large companies are usually told to focus only on what they already do well. They build their strategies around core competencies. If a customer asks for something outside that expertise, the typical answer is no. But entrepreneurs often respond differently. One entrepreneur had already changed his business several times while working in event production. One day, a client asked if he could broadcast live training events to hundreds of stores across a huge country. The challenge was big. It required satellite technology he had never used before. Instead of refusing, he said, "Yes, we can." Even though he had no experience with satellite systems and had never operated outside his home city, he figured it out. Years later, another client suggested placing television screens on the sales floor to show advertisements directly to shoppers. Once again, he agreed. By continuously saying yes to new challenges, he completely reinvented his company multiple times and built a much larger business. The second mindset is called problem first, not product first. Big corporations often focus heavily on their products. They keep making small changes and calling them innovation. Maybe they change a color, adjust a formula, or release a slightly different version of the same item. But entrepreneurs usually start somewhere else. They begin with a problem. One inventor developed a special material and realized it could solve a common issue in surgery. Surgical forceps, which doctors use during operations, often stick to human tissue. This can slow procedures and cause complications. The inventor used his new alloy to prevent that sticking problem. At first, he targeted plastic surgeons, but the market grew slowly. So he looked deeper and found a much bigger need among neurosurgeons who operate on the brain and spine. Because he focused on solving a real problem rather than pushing a product, his invention eventually became extremely valuable and was later acquired by a large medical company. The third mindset is think narrow, not broad. Traditional business strategy usually aims for the largest market possible. Big companies want massive audiences. Entrepreneurs often do the opposite. They begin with a very small group of customers who have a very specific problem. Two entrepreneurs once noticed that distance runners struggled with their shoes. At the time, most running shoes were designed for sprinters who ran on smooth tracks. But distance runners trained on rough paths and dirt roads. They frequently suffered from ankle injuries and painful shin splints. So they designed shoes specifically for long-distance runners. The shoes had better stability, more cushioning, and were lighter in weight. At first, their market was extremely narrow, elite distance runners. But after mastering the skill of designing performance shoes and building relationships with athletes, the company expanded into other sports. Eventually, it became one of the biggest athletic brands in the world. The fourth mindset is about cash. Ask for the cash and ride the float. Many large corporations already have huge amounts of money available. Entrepreneurs usually don't. Cash is their lifeline. When an electric car startup planned its first vehicle, the team decided to build a high-end sports car first. The idea was to earn money from that car and later create more affordable models. But before building the first car, they tried something unusual. They invited wealthy people who cared about the environment and loved new technology. During a small roadshow, they offered a chance to buy the car in advance. 100 people paid $100,000 each before the car even existed. That meant the company suddenly had $10 million in cash to begin production. Years later, when they introduced another model, hundreds of thousands of people placed deposits before manufacturing even began, providing hundreds of millions of dollars to fund development. The fifth mindset is beg, borrow, but don't steal. Traditional financial thinking says you must invest large amounts of money first and then calculate whether the return will justify that investment. But entrepreneurs often look for ways to build businesses using resources they don't own. One couple wanted to create a treetop adventure park where visitors could climb and swing through forest courses. Instead of buying land and building everything from scratch, they partnered with a national forestry organization that already had forests, parking areas, and facilities. The organization wanted more visitors to their sites. The entrepreneurs wanted trees for their adventure courses, so they made a deal. They used the existing forests and infrastructure while simply installing their climbing equipment. Over time, the concept expanded to dozens of locations and even spread internationally. The final mindset is don't ask permission. Inside large organizations, new ideas usually have to pass through legal teams, management approvals, and endless layers of regulation. Getting a yes can take a long time, but getting a no is easy. Entrepreneurs move faster. Sometimes regulations haven't yet caught up with new technology or new business models. Instead of waiting for approval, entrepreneurs launch their ideas and adapt along the way. Of course, this approach still must respect ethics and responsibility, but many disruptive companies only exist today because someone decided to act first rather than wait for permission. So, these are the mindsets that often separate entrepreneurs from traditional businesses. Say yes to opportunities even when they seem outside your expertise. Focus on solving problems instead of simply improving products. Start with a narrow market and master it. Generate cash early whenever possible. Use resources creatively instead of owning everything. And sometimes move forward before anyone gives you permission. The question is simple. Which of these mindsets do you already have? Which ones could you learn? And could one of these ways of thinking help you overcome a challenge you're facing today? Because sometimes changing the way you think is the first step towards changing the world.